الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. We start by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as all praise is due to Him, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace and blessings upon His last and final messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I advise myself and my brothers and sisters, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam advised us, to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to have taqwa. And we said taqwa is more than just a claim, or more than just a feeling that we claim we have, but it's actually something that leads to action. Requires us to put a barrier and seek protection from what it is that we claim we fear. I was sidetracked with someone in the masjid, so I apologize for being late, but I think in the future we'll try to start by about 9 o'clock inshallah. I think by the time we finish Isha prayer and get here, we can get here about 9. Is that okay? Does that time work for most people, inshallah? Inshallah. And we will stick with Saturdays, inshallah, instead of Sundays. The only thing, I don't know if I can come weekly. Maybe it will be every 2 weeks or bi-weekly, inshallah. Okay. Tawq ibn Habib, he said, taqwa is acting in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in hope of His mercy. So the correct definition of taqwa is that you do righteous deeds and you act in an obedient way, hoping for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon a light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is important because there are many people out there, even people of other religions and other faiths, that will claim what I am doing, this is taqwa. This is because I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hoping for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of fear from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what they are doing is wrong. What they are doing is misguidance. What they are doing is not based upon the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is guidance, which is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His revelation. And then the definition goes on, leaving acts of disobedience to Allah out of fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, upon a light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is very important for us in our religion, because it's not sufficient to say this is the way we found our forefathers. We found our forefathers worshipping in such a way, so we too do the same thing. As if we just inherited it from them and we will do exactly what they did, without knowing, is this truly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants? Is this truly what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did and advised us to do, and so on. This is an attitude that's mentioned to us in the Quran, and it's the attitude of who? Of mushrikeen, of disbelievers, of people that will go to hellfire. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the day of judgment, when they will be asked, they will say, we found our forefathers doing this and we did the same thing. They used to worship false gods, we worshipped false gods, and so on. So sometimes we find that Muslims will fall into this as well. When you find a Muslim is doing something wrong and you try to advise them, they will say, but this is the way our ancestors were doing it for generations, although it may be that they were doing something incorrect. So whatever we are doing in this religion, we do it based upon light. And we mentioned this last time, that in Surah Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to say that this is my way. I call to the straight path, me and the ones who follow me, ala basira. Based on full vision and seeing clearly and truly, based on knowledge, knowing what it is that I'm calling to and being certain about what it is that I'm calling to. But to say that this is what I believe, this is what I think, this is my opinion, this is what my custom says, or my tradition, or my nation, or whatever it is, that's not necessarily going to be valid unless it is in line with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam want. So we said that taqwa defines the two conditions for actions to be accepted. What are those two conditions? We mentioned them last week. Sincerity, that you're doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that you're following the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's way is the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to be worshipped. We said it's not valid to say my intention is good, but then I will do something the way I want. And this is the problem with many people today. When you say you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even those who we call non-Muslims, they say, yes, I believe in God. Okay, why don't you follow and do what God wants you to do? They say, well, I just do whatever I believe is right, and that will be good enough for God because I know what is good and I know what is bad and so on. But there are no two people on the face of the earth that will agree on what is good and what is bad. Even if they're twins from the same mother and father with the same genes, they will not agree on everything. Impossible. So only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the right to decide how He should be worshipped. How arrogant it is for us as the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come to our master and say, listen, I will tell you how I'm going to worship you. We would say this is unacceptable by human standards, is that right? If a slave came to their master, if we think back to the time when there were slaves and people were owned, and they would come and say, listen, I know you want me to work, but I don't want to work. I will work the way I like. My working, I will just work 1 day a week, and I will only work for 1 hour that day, and that's it. We will say this person is not a slave. You don't have a choice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has dictated clearly how it is that He wants to be worshipped. You decide that you want to willingly enter into slavery and servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because here the idea is that it's self-surrender. There's no compulsion. No one is forcing you to be a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to choose, and it's an honor to be accepted as a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the thing. Slavery to anything else in this world, and the bottom line is all human beings are slaves, whether we like it or not, but slavery to anything else in this world is humiliation. Except slavery to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to honor Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, He said, talking about the Isra and Mi'raj, He used what word to describe the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? He used the word slave, abd. He said, glory be to the one who is most perfect, the one who took his slave up. And He described Prophet Muhammad ﷺ as a slave. So this was a time of great honor when the Prophet ﷺ went to a place where no one had ever gone before. When the Prophet ﷺ was leading all of the prophets and messengers in salah. This was a time when the Prophet ﷺ was being honored. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed him with this title to show that this is a title of great honor. Not anybody can be accepted to be a true slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.